Hey guys, Adam here again with another video, and today is going to be kind of unique because what I've been working on here doesn't directly relate to go-to-market or the agency or lead generation or any of this stuff directly. Most of the stuff that I've been working on over the last couple days has been personal, and it's just recently started, or I should say I just recently started pushing Clawdbot into some of the agency automations that I started to create, and I'll show you how I'm sort of balancing the personal and work life of my Clawdbot, given that it has access to all this stuff. One of the biggest things that I've done for my Clawdbot is basically give it its own Mac Mini isolated instance. And I know it's not 100% required to have a Mac Mini. I just wanted a place for it to live. Like right now I can, let's say if I was at the airport and I actually had a situation where I was out of the house and I basically had it install a webhook reader and build a bad bounce detector for a client while I was out of the house, not even within a kilometer of where the Clawdbot local was actually hosted. Just to talk with you guys like a little bit about the techie stuff. I have Clawdbot mostly, or my Clawdbot mostly using Opus for its brain. I know people say it's really expensive. I've probably been spending like $20 a day with it for a couple hours of work. Some of the ways that I've been able to keep the cost down is having it use Codex for coding. I'll have it use Gemini for web searches, and then we'll use Grok for social searches. And I didn't come up with that. I've been watching a lot of videos on how to optimize it. I did also have it install a Quen model locally for website store, or sorry, for memories. My brain's broken, for memory storage. And as we'll get into, I think one of the major flaws of Clawdbot is that its memory can be quite short. I think it's one of the greatest points of improvement for AI agents is context. I think everybody knows that. If you can get a bigger context window, if you could have a context window of hundreds of gigabytes or terabytes, you would basically have a human, and we're just not there yet. So there's a little bit about the good, a little bit about the bad. Let's just basically run into what I did. So over the last week, I've basically given Clawdbot access to everything that I consider important: my notes, my journals, my work, conversations that I've had, sales calls recordings, meeting recordings, and basically try and get it to the point where it understands who I am. I think that it's a crazy prediction, but in the future, probably everything we say or do will be recorded and given to our AI assistant of some sort to give like as accurate of a recreation of the self. And not to wax too philosophic here, but one of the main reasons that I am working on this AI agent is for the concept of like a digital ghost, right? Let's say that, preserving your legacy is really important to you, or creating a protocol if something were to happen to you is really important to you, and it is to me. Basically, my family and anyone I know will still get messages from me into the future, will have access to my finances and protocols for anything they need. And so hopefully even my like great grandchildren 100 years from now are still receiving guidance for me because of this like Robert House Fallout style AI that I'm creating or working on right now. And I don't think Claude bot has to be the avenue for that, but I think that it's a good stepping stone. It's a good practice for someone like me who's not a machine learning programmer to step their feet into this. Okay, we went really high level. Let's show a couple wins from what Clawdbot has done for me so far. So this was a fun one today. I was basically telling, so number one, I installed Clawdbot in our Slack channels, the important ones, at least related to operations and customer service. And I basically said, hey, like, can you send an email to a couple of clients telling them like I'm going to be out of town, and like here's when they can contact me. So it did that. The email was great, right? Every email that I've had Clawdbot write is great, and you have the option to send it from Clawdbot or from yourself. And I've been telling it to send from myself to give all appearances there. So this is pretty cool. Even impressed our engineer, which is really fun. Introduced to the team, and if we look through my messages, you'll probably see a little cringe, which is like me treating it like it's a human. But that brings up a good point. Is okay. Let's go through the timeline of usage of the bot, right? So I think the first mistake I made was installing it on my MacBook, my main work computer. And I quickly realized that was not going to be, wasn't going to be good for the working relationship between me and Clawdbot. So I got a Mac Mini. It came in, and I had it walk me through transferring itself over to the Mac Mini, which is crazy. It did lead me through a couple loops, and I was finally like, can't I just like install you and copy over the files? And it was like, oh yeah, you can do that, which points to the, like it is Claude, right? And Claude and ChatGPT do send you down some weird alleys sometimes, and it got a little crazy. But eventually, like you still need to guide it, right? That's one thing I would say. You still need to guide your Clawdbot down the direction that it should be going. It's not 100% yet, but it is really good. So besides the handling sending emails for me, I just give it a little context. It has sent like a letter to my landlord in Italian while I was sleeping, because I had journaled basically that I was frustrated that heavy, wall breaking construction had started in my home office. And we were forced out of the house for a week, so we got a rent reduction letter sent out in Italian by Clawdbot, which is crazy, right? I'll update you guys on how that goes. Probably knowing the Italian system won't go too well, but we're leaving soon anyways. What else did it do? Like while I was sleeping, it made 17 YouTube scripts for me. And I don't think the YouTube scripts are perfect, but I think that for the vast majority of people, they are a good outline for getting their videos started. So it created this outline for me, right? You guys probably have heard of Clawdbot, and you don't need me to tell. This video is not for me to convince you to use Clawdbot. This video is not for me to tell you how to install Clawdbot or anything like that. It's just to show you how I have been using it. And I decided the best way to do that would be not to show you guys videos of me using WhatsApp, which is the main channel that I use it through, because there's just hundreds and hundreds of messages, right? To talk a little bit about the cost, talk a little bit about like how good I think the things it made me. That's the purpose of this video. So yeah, it created a little timeline for me. Unfortunately, its memory is not awesome, especially the first couple days it was not awesome. I will talk a little bit about how I optimize that using some local storage. But yeah, the first things I did was to give it a name, give it a little bit of a personality. I told it to be like the butler from Batman, to be like Virgil from Dante's Inferno, to be like Seneca writing to friends, or to be like Robert House from Fallout, and kind of mesh those together. One of my big complaints with Clawdbot is that it doesn't really, unless you literally change its soul, which is like an MD file, it does not, it just doesn't remember how to act. It reverts to how Claude or ChatGPT would act with you, which is like the sycophant type, like, yeah, whatever boss, haha, kind of personality that I wasn't that interested in working with. So I'm still improving that, and I'll let you guys know how that goes. But basically, I haven't been able to get it to stop saying LOL and send emojis, because it really just reverts fast back to its Opus guidelines and tries to match your tone. And so I'll let you guys know a little bit about, let's see, I don't think it's working actually. Unfortunately, I'm away from home, so I can't access the Clawdbot control center that I would normally have. I could show you like what is in its soul file and all that stuff. Actually, I could show you. Let's open that real quick. 1 second. It's in the Finder. And then let's go to Clawdbot. It's really slow. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so I've opened its identity document here. It's got a name. It's got like a little bit of what it should act like. And I do need to update this. I think if you give it an avatar, it does a better job of doing what you want. But it's pretty good. Like, I think that this is influencing how it acts a lot more than the rest of the files that I've set up for it. Like I set up a couple of personalities for it that I wanted it to access on occasion. It's not doing that well. But yeah, I don't think you guys really care too much about what personality I gave it. You probably care more about how I got it configured and what I'm doing with it. Okay, first things I started doing, day 2 was integrating fireflies. getting it connected to my calendars, my contacts, testing some things like sending grandma an I love you message every Friday. Don't worry, I call her every Sunday too. But yeah, just some fun stuff like that. Had it guide me through meal prep and calorie counting through something that I wanted to make. Sent my wife a grocery list and a recipe, which was pretty cool. Yeah, I helped it set up some meeting follow-up automations, which is pretty cool, just to send tasks to my engineer and stuff like that. What else did we do? Let me just make this a little bigger. Yeah, the big breakthrough was starting the tax session. I basically wanted to file my taxes early, and it was a huge help when it came to like the executive dysfunction around my taxes, right? I was just sitting there chatting with it for hours and hours, helping connect it to my accounts, sending it screenshots to help me find deductions. And in the end, we basically did like 5 hours of tax reconciliation because my numbers, my Rocket Money, my TurboTax, my bookkeeper's numbers were all messed up and didn't point together. So we ended up finding a way to file that made sense. And while it's not a real accountant, it certainly saved me a lot of time and grief and got me to the numbers that I should have had, right? But we were basically trying to reconcile like accrual and what is it, tax cost basis accounting, which I learned a little bit about through Clawdbot, which is really nice. You guys are, pretty cool. I think we made almost, total the agency made my business has made about $300,000 last year, which might be interesting for you to know. And I paid myself something like $50,000. So if that information is useful to you as a year 2 agency owner, might be interesting. So yes, some of the next things I wanted it to shift its mindset using some things that I found in the YouTube videos, basically like stop waiting around for me to do something. I give you the permission to take my problems and find solutions. And from there, it built a YouTube content system, basically some video suggestions that, I don't know, I may or may not do. I generally do not like AI to guide content. That's probably why you guys watch me, is because you don't want to watch AI content yet. It's just not good enough for me, at least personally, to find entertaining, but it was a cool little experiment. I sent the landlord rent reduction letter for the construction. Slack integration was a big one. Basically, if any message goes unanswered for an hour, my engineer gets pinged, which is really awesome. Helped me plan my trip, helped me set reminders for the pharmacy pickup, Valentine's Day planning, all that kind of stuff. Inbox, disconnect alerts was a big one. We work with a couple services who unfortunately do not automatically reconnect your email inboxes for the agency for whatever reason. And so we basically fix that by having Clawdbot check through its heartbeat, which basically is just like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but a heartbeat is basically like just a cron job check. And Clawdbot is just basically built on a bunch of cron jobs. Like, hey, check this every 30 minutes, check this every day, check this every 6 hours. So I'd say the vast majority of the hours I spent with Clawdbot have been getting it connected to WhatsApp, to iMessage, to Slack, email, calendar, contacts, Fireflies, file system, web search, all that kind of stuff, shell commands. And I'm not going to say that is quick, because you have to customize how you want it to be connected to all your systems. And so like my level of security risk tolerance is very high compared to the average person. And so you will probably have a shorter time getting your Clawdbot or whatever set up, right? I think that for the moment, Clawdbot is probably the best AI agent that exists, in my opinion, right? It's basically everything you could want with Claude Code wrapped up into like a chatbot, right? At the same time. So Clawdbot has actually been supervising and building a lot of the apps that I've been wanting to build for myself and for my agency. I guess now's a good time to talk about some of the memory systems that I saw that Claude Super Memory had come out. So I messaged my Clawdbot and was like, yo, like, this is super cool. Is it like, I know this is for Claude Code, but is this something we can do? And it was like, yeah, I can fix you something like that, as if it were a chef. And so we installed a local model, a local SQL database. And now before its sessions overwrite, like it has a certain amount of context that it can handle before it starts a new session. It will copy all of the text messages into there and then also create a summary. I think that combined with a couple other settings that you can go find in other Clawdbot memory videos on YouTube helped a ton with the memory, which I think is the biggest, like I said, the biggest downside of Clawdbot is that the context will just never be enough. Like it could always be better. And right now it's probably, like 25 to 50% of what I'd like it to be. Right. Let's see what else. So yeah, it's celebrating itself a little hard right now. But yeah, I think the biggest cost, obviously the Mac Mini, right? You don't need that. Just do like a VPS or something. You don't need you don't need a Mac Mini like I do. I just was feeling fancy. I'm happy with the decision because I'm actually building much more. Like this went from an experiment to like, oh shit, I'm actually going to build out all my systems, using a framework from Clawdbot, right? And so right now, the way that I'm building is that the automations are contained within Clawdbot itself, which is not efficient. And I don't want all of my automations to be contained like that. I have had Claude since basically today, since I've been thinking about this, start to use Claude Code to and Codex to basically start making its own apps that live outside of it and aren't dependent on its heartbeat, right? But as far as cost goes, I've probably been spending like $5 an hour of conversations with Clawdbot, optimizing for using Sonnet rather than Opus when needed, having it use Gemini to search, having it use Grok for social, and then basically using the local model for memory is helping save a lot of money. If you only use Opus, you're going to spend a ton of money. Cool. All right, what's our roadmap looking? So I currently have an SLA tracker that I built locally using Claude Code that I'm going to have Clawdbot basically just convert to run in a graphical user interface along with some other agency stuff. I'm having it monitor my Slack. This is already done. I don't know why it's saying this. We're monitoring Slack whenever a customer does not get a message for an hour. It will handle the customer success and basically leave a generic message when possible. We did this already before these notes were generated. We have inbox health alerts now. We have bad bounce notifications. Campaign performance I have not done yet, but literally the next thing I do will have it in Slack basically send I'll have it use Google, what do you call it? Whatever the Google Power, I know I'm old, I'm showing my age here. Google PowerPoint, what is it called? Google presentation? I don't know. Anyways, you guys know what I mean. To send like bi-weekly reports to clients that are all fancy and nice straight to their email or Slack, wherever they're hanging out. I'm going to have it build out my ClickUp based on my Airtable. So I'm giving it access to my Airtable. I'm saying like, I don't want to use Airtable anymore. I want you to build this crap inside of, you know what I mean? Inside of ClickUp, my brain overflowing here. And then other thing that I'm thinking about is basically having it do social monitoring for like competitors, for LinkedIn posts and things like that. Having it help automate some of the CRM stuff through Adio, meeting prep briefs, reminders, all that kind of stuff. It also already tracks my email and Slack for important messages and will basically ping me. So this has been huge, right? Basically just not having to stare at my Slack and inbox all day, which I've been known to do. I now get a message pretty reliably when something important happens. And this is super good to bring up before the 20-minute mark here too. The biggest advantage of Clawdbot for me so far has been helping me with my executive dysfunction. So like I will basically just brain dump into Clawdbot and then it will basically create a to-do list for me. And then we'll just start chopping at every task. And while that sounds silly, probably to some of the agency owners and people who are already, have very high executive function, it's basically the largest barrier I've had to scaling my agency is this executive function. And now that I've been able to solve the problem with like fearing what will happen if I fail, which took a while. now when I actually sit down to do the thing that I no longer fear, I don't get caught up in the who, what, when, where, why, how. So that has been huge for me. Okay, other than that, let's close this out. Basically, we built all this cool stuff. It helped me a lot with my taxes, which was huge. Getting my taxes done without paying, $1,000 or $2,000 to some. We had a bookkeeping service this past year that I just wasn't happy with, and so I was determined to do my taxes on my own. But yeah, we already talked about the benefits. Did my meal prep, blah, 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 blah. The digital go stuff is huge, which I talked about. I know that the immediate reaction to me using AI to message family will elicit like the bro, what are you doing response. But it's deeper than that. Trust me, I'm still talking to my family and still using it. And I'm using AI for something else. Like, something happens to me or the future that I want to build, I want to have that all accounted for. Okay. Yeah, proactive monitoring we talked about for both client and personal systems and emails. All these tech stack setups took a long time. So that is the majority. I was trying to think, like, where did all my time go setting up Clawdbot? It was definitely setting up all this stuff. Like, it wasn't smooth sailing. I didn't just say, hey, connect to Gmail. And I had to go and grab my access tokens, and for iMessage, I had to go do X, Y, and Z. It took some time to set all this up. And also surprisingly costs less than I was expecting for the API key for Opus and all these other tools, which is pretty cool. What else? Yeah, again, speeding through this here, I think it's helped a ton with my executive dysfunction over the last week. Lastly, areas for improvement. The memory could be a lot better. I have been working to improve it and telling it basically spend as much money and time as you want optimizing for memory and context. And we still have a lot of ways to go. But all the cron jobs and stuff we have set up are really nice. I think that the last thing I mentioned with regards to like memory or building is that it's tempting to set everything up within Clawdbot, whereas that doesn't make sense for most of the apps. It makes sense to have Clawdbot build the app somewhere else for your business. But if you build it all within Clawdbot and stop using Clawdbot for whatever reason, expense or security or whatever, it's gone, right? And so I'm trying to avoid that trap, which I did not write here. Tone personality also has a lot of work. It really does, despite what I've written into all the guidelines, possible skills, soul, personality lens, still kind of reverts back to its haha, totally bro kind of tone, which I'm not a big fan of. I've also, other people online seem to have it doing unprompted solo work by solving problems, being proactive, or literally telling it like, hey, I want you to go do some shit tonight. And big surprise, AI does not do that well with that kind of freedom. Or it goes off the rails and you wake up with like a $300,000 charge or some craziness, right? And so I've literally said, hey, I want you to review all my Apple Notes. I want you to review all my emails that I've gotten today. And I want you to come up with solutions for like 5 to 10 of the problems. And then it will do that, and I'll check back in on it saying, hey, I went to sleep, and I'll find that it spent like 2 minutes and generated like 2 or 3 kind of cool things. I think it's still a little bit timid and is afraid. I'm not afraid of spending money, but afraid of going off the rails there. It just doesn't know what it doesn't know. And obviously these LLMs are just not programmed for that. Maybe you guys have a model suggestion that might be better for that. But yeah, I find that people who are saying, oh yeah, well, I go to sleep, Clawdbot just builds me Claude code apps. It's not true yet, or maybe they have a better system than I do. Okay, lastly, it does AI stuff, conflating memories and conflating tools and hallucinating and being a little wacky sometimes. But I've also had multiple moments with Clawdbot where I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I conflated 2 different things. And so it's like, while it is an issue, it's also like it's pretty good with Opus. It's like almost at the level where like normal human error rate. And so I can't really say much here other than that you should expect this to happen. You should expect when you're trying to set up a anniversary message to your wife that it'll send a test message instead, or to your grandma or whoever, like that stuff's going to happen. And thankfully I think the worst things that have happened since I've using Claude Code is maybe, sorry, not Claude Code, Clawdbot, sending an email to a client from my personal email, and then like sending a test message as part of a planned automation. So I hope this video is helpful for you all who are like looking online and seeing like what can this thing actually do. And then again, I would say be careful about the trap of putting every automation inside of your Clawdbot. I am really optimistic about it potentially being the agent for our business. And the last thing I will say is that I do think that this Clawdbot has replaced a hire that I was going to make. It has definitely replaced the job of an assistant that I have had in the business or otherwise would have in the future. I'm basically programming it to do all my inbox management, all my bounce monitoring, some customer success, customer service stuff, operations, and yeah, I think it's worth being paid like $5 an hour for 4 hours a day. Much easier to deal with than a person, maybe slightly less accurate, but it's really good. So I don't know. I'm not like trying to gain internet clout here. Hopefully you guys can trust what I'm saying. It's really cool. It's surpassed my expectations in most areas, other than the ones I've mentioned here. So yeah, let me know what you guys are building. Let me know what you want to see. I would show you my messages, but digging through it is just crazy. So hope you guys have fun building, and I'll see you in the next video.